All right, so now it's time to make our lid for our boxes, and I want to show you a couple that students have done that have come back in person that are completed so you can see an idea of what this is going to look like. This is mine, so it still kind of has a lot of dings in it. It looks a little rough, but we're going to fix all of that, and I'm going to show you how to do that here in a few minutes. This is a student whose box she finished today, and I hadn't seen this student for a little while because of snow and I don't even know what else. So this is her box. It's already started to dry out, so you can see the change in color. And then she's made her lid, and she finished this. So it has to dry out all the way, and then I can fire it. And this is a person in our bridge class, and their box is finished and fired, and it's ready to be glazed. So I'm going to show you today how to get the lid added and get the lid made, and yeah, that's what we're going to do. So the first thing I want you to know is that you need to get this as smooth as you can before we let it dry out. So right now you can see a lot of little imperfections and stuff like that. And what I'm going to be using is my sponge. Now, I'm not real sure how dry your project is. These have been in process for a while. But I want to show you kind of how this works. So, what you're going to do is you're going to get your sponge wet, but you're going to wring it out really good. So right now the sponge feels damp. It's not dripping water all over the place or anything like that. And then you're going to kind of use a scrubbing motion. And this will be easier when you have two hands. I only have one because I'm recording this myself since I'm at work. And I'm not pressing too hard, but because my clay has gotten, it's beginning to dry out, it's gotten kind of hard and cold, this actually is a lot easier. And you can get a super smooth surface by doing that. Now, I would recommend at home, because you're going to have both hands, support under here as you're smoothing with your other hand. I cannot do that, like I said, because I'm working one-handed. But you can even see with just doing it like this, how smooth that surface gets. So I'm going to do the other three sides, the bottom and the inside, and I'm going to show you what that looks like as soon as I'm done. Alright, so it's much smoother than it was. My project has been in process even longer than y'all's because I had to make the video and, all that stuff way back. So, yours will probably end up being smoother than mine because it just hasn't been going as long as mine. So just, take your time with this part and really get things as smooth as you can. And if your sponge gets really dirty and you need to rinse it out and get more water in it, you can. But this is pretty normal. I mean, that's not too bad. And smoothing things, I mean, you can take as much time as you need to on that, depending on how your project is looking at home. Also, make sure we don't see any lines, like where the walls were put together. Make sure you've smoothed all of those over. And this corner is kind of messy, but see if I can get that a little better. Alright, so now we've got to make the lid. So I already have a slab rolled out here, and you're going to roll one out too. Now you don't need much clay to make your lid because it's only going to be that large, approximately. And it's not a ton of clay. So this, young ladies, you don't need a huge slab to make this. But we all used the same template to make our boxes. But I can almost guarantee you they are all different sizes. So even these three, they just look different. People cut things out differently. People, it just happens. So we want your lid to be a perfect fit. So you're going to take your box and you're going to flip it upside down on top of your slab. And we're going to trace around it to get a perfect fit. So I'm going to use my paper clip. And I'm just going to trace around my box. Trace lightly, okay? So that if you make a mistake, I did that in one of my classes today. I was showing kids how to do it. My paper clip slipped. You can fix it. And now I'm going to cut that out of the clay. Okay, there's my lid, the beginning of my lid. And that is a pretty perfect fit on there. So remember, all your extra clay over here, you just want to ball it up really good, squish it up, get it back into a plastic bag as soon as possible. So don't forget to do that part. Put it in your bag, okay? Now, this lid here, it's sitting on there fine right now because our clay has water in it, and so the clay is sticky and kind of wants to stick to things. But when it's fired, it will be smoother, and we don't want the lid to just slide off, which could easily happen right now with the way it is. So we're going to be adding some coils underneath to help hold it on, and that's what I'm going to show you how to do now. So first step in this process is to flip your lid over, and this is sort of trial and error. So probably the first time you do it, it won't be perfect. It won't be a perfect fit, but we're going to make adjustments where we need to. And what I'm doing here is I'm just drawing a rectangle about, probably a little over 1/4 inch from the edge, because I'm trying to account for this space right here. And this is just not an exact science. So we try it and see what works, and then see what we do next. Now I'm going to roll out a coil. This is much easier with 2 hands. I'm just pinching this off from my extra clay. And remember, when we roll a coil, you're rolling out what will look like a snake of clay. And a little bit of clay for this will go a long way. So this will probably actually be all that I need. Sometimes when you're rolling coils, depending on how hard or soft your clay is, you sort of have to stop and reshape. I probably wouldn't have to do that if I were doing it with 2 hands. So you want to do it with, roll out your coil with 2 hands. And I'm actually going to pause the video and do that now, so mine looks more like what yours should look like. And that's about how thin it should be. So it is pretty thin. And you're going to lay this along the line you made. You can sort of press it down. This is important, okay? When you get to the end right here, you're going to pinch it. And then we're going to add the next one here. Again, it's going to be a lot easier when you're using 2 hands. This one will be here. And then this one will be here. It's important that you make it 4 different pieces. It's very hard to do one-handed. Didn't work. Let's try it again. It's very important that you do 4 pieces, because if you try to take a coil and do the whole thing, it's going to end up too big. That's better. And it's going to defeat the purpose of what we do next. All right. Now you're going to take your plastic knife, and just along the inside edge, so here, 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 and here, we're going to smooth down, smooth it into the lid. And I forgot to say this at the beginning, but make sure you're working on a protected surface, because your project, depending on how much water is in your clay for your lid, it will very much want to get stuck to your table. And then you're going to do all this hard work, and it will be suctioned to whatever it is you're working on. And nobody wants that. And now, after I finish this here in just a second, I'm going to take my sponge and I'm going to get this nice and smooth here so we can't see the lines of the knife, and then I'll show you what's next. Alright, now we're going to put this lid on top. And it's supposed to, in the end, it'll fit down inside there, like these two examples. But at first, it probably will not. So let's see how mine does. Alright, see that gap? That's expected. So what we have to do is make some little adjustments, and that's why we only smooth this down on the inside. So it looks like I need to roll, kind of just gently push this in a little bit. And let's try it now. It's getting there. So that definitely is a problem. This end, it needs to just come in more. And I would imagine I don't even need this. Cool. So this part is important that you take your time to make these adjustments to make sure it fits the way it's supposed to. We're getting there. So this looks good. This looks good. This looks okay. So it's just this end. So let me see what I can do here. And as you're carving away, make sure you pull the gunky stuff off the end of the knife. Okay, let's see. Oh, that's really good right there. This end still needs some help. So guys, this is not, oh sorry. This is not, it's just trial and error. It's trying and seeing, you know, where you need to maybe carve a little bit of clay away, where you maybe need to, you know, push the coil towards the inside. Let's see how this does. Yay, much better. Yes, great. So, looks good all the way around. Now, I am pushing it down in there a little, and that's fine. Of course, you don't want to stick it on there, like smooth it together, because it's going to be separate. This end is still bothering me. There we go. Take your time on this part, okay? And that's why, I mean, I could have paused this and done all this, but I think it's important for you to see, like, you just gotta try it till it works. I mean, not everything works perfect the first time. It goes like this. There we go. But I am going to pause it right now and get this part a little better because I'm having trouble doing it one-handed. So I'm going to do that. There we go. So it should be a real close to perfect fit on top of there. And with your sponge, you can just get it very neat. And be real careful with this part. You do not want a ton of water in your sponge, because we do not want it to get stuck to the base, right? We just want it smooth enough for now that you can still get it off. And now we're going to add the knob. So the little knob on top. So this person did a round one. This person did square-ish one. Here's the important thing to remember about your knob. Whatever shape that you do, it cannot be too thick. Things that are too thick in clay, you've heard me say this before with other projects, but they will explode. So you can't do a knob like this big and this tall in here. It will just explode in the firing process. So it's good to keep that in mind. I think I'm going to do a square one. So what I've done over here with one hand is I just rolled a little ball of clay. It's pretty small. And then I'm going to tap it on all the sides. So it starts getting this square shape. There we go. And that's going to go on top here. So it's very easy to add, but a couple things to remember. When you're adding a piece of clay to another piece of clay, you have to add what? What comes first? Score marks. Very good. So I'm going to do my score marks, my lines along here. I'm also going to do it where it's going to attach here, and I'll show you what that looks like. All right, so score marks, and then we have to add what's next. Who remembers? Slip. So here's my slip. Remember, this is my glue. We're not brushing over the score marks, we're just dabbing it along it. Well, it's easier to do with two hands. And then I'm going to put this right here. You should have enough slip on there that it does ooze out like that. And then you can just brush it around the knob. It'll move, okay, because it's really slick right now. But the point is that there's enough glue in there, hopefully, that it won't come off when it starts to dry. Clay loves to stick to other pieces of clay when it's wet. But when it begins to dry out and the water is evaporating out of it, it loves to fall apart because the water is the glue of clay. And when the water begins to disappear through the evaporation process, your clay will want to fall apart because there's nothing really there holding it together much. There's a little bit of water in it, even when it dries. Now you want to be careful here and not try to hit your knob, but we want to make sure it still fits good. And you can actually leave it to dry like this. This little corner is bothering me, but that's okay. Good enough. Yours will look better, no doubt. And there you have it. Box. So once you get to this point, if you take more time under here to get this more smooth, which I probably will, and then post a picture of it, keep double checking that it still fits, because when you make little changes under here, it may mess up the fit of it, and you want it to be a good fit. And then on the bottom, you can see I did it there for an example, Daring Bridge. You want to put your initials in BR or B2 or B3 or A3, whatever class you have, your initials and your block on the bottom of it. And then when you're done, of course, you're going to send me a picture in Canvas of your box, and they're going to look awesome.